Hi everybody, in this video I will share how I learned Hanzi, Chinese characters, and how you can learn and get used to Chinese characters as well. So I am Korean, to those of you who are just tuning in, and I finished all my education in Korea. And in Korean education system, we learn Hanza, Chinese characters, from public education as early as 5th or 6th grade in elementary school. And you might probably be wondering, what is Hanza? I thought it's Hanzi, Chinese characters, but Hanza is a Koreanized word for Hanzi. So Hanza is what Chinese characters are called in Korean, and it has Koreanized pronunciations for each character, for each Hanza. And we learn Chinese characters because there are so many Sino-Korean vocabularies in Korean language, the loan words from Chinese. So knowledge on Chinese characters definitely help us widen our vocabulary span and also have a better understanding about the root of many words. So due to Hanza education, most Koreans have at least some basic knowledge on Chinese characters. For example, most of us know the meaning of these basic Chinese characters. And hi, this character's name in Korean is 바다해. 스, this one's name is 죽을 사. Tian, this character's name is 하늘천. And the first blue part of each name indicates the meaning of the character, and the second red part indicates how the character is read, how it's pronounced in Korean. However, just because we're familiar with some Chinese characters doesn't mean we know the Chinese language, the Mandarin language. Two languages, grammar structure, and pronunciation system is very different. And in fact, Chinese language is more similar to English than it is to Korean in many ways. But the knowledge of some Chinese characters do give us the advantage to learn and comprehend Chinese faster compared to the learners who have never even seen Chinese characters before, which is most of you if you're not from East Asian culture. So what I'm trying to get across to you is how important learning Chinese characters is when it comes to learning Chinese. I've met so many Chinese learners, especially those from Western countries, who think they can just get by only knowing pinyin without learning Chinese characters properly. But that way, your Chinese can reach a certain level, but it can never go beyond that or deeper than that. For example, I miss you in Chinese is 我想你, but associating 我想你, the pinyin itself, to I miss you, and 我想你, the characters to I miss you, is a totally different feeling and different depth. Even if you're speaking the same sentence, it's a different level of understanding. So you will always feel like you are missing something if you don't learn Chinese characters together. I know at first glance, learning all those unfamiliar, complicated, squiggly, picture-like characters seem very daunting and difficult, but once you get past the unavoidable initial struggle, it will feel much easier to read and write properly, and you'll eventually get the hang of it. So from this point on, I will share some tips on learning Chinese characters, but don't get your hopes up too much because it's no magical formula. It's a very realistic and scientific method. So let's begin. First, start with basic characters and their stroke orders. Every Chinese character has 笔系, which means the stroke order, so you cannot just randomly draw the character as you deem comfortable. This is hard to learn all by yourself, so I recommend that you learn with free YouTube tutorials online, or real-life teachers, or taking classes. And you can also take paid online courses. I know some very good Chinese teaching websites, so I will make sure to include that in the description box as well. And the next two tips are about memorizing the Chinese characters. So here's the tip number 2. Memorize the character's pinyin and its meaning simultaneously. As I told you earlier, the way Koreans learn Hanza is that we put the name on each character with the meaning and pinyin, the pronunciation combined. So when we see, for example, these basic characters, we just instantly know this is 아름다움이, and this is 손수. And I think this would work for any CSL learners. In fact, it's a brilliant method. By being constantly exposed to the character, pinyin, and meaning simultaneously, you are practicing how to easily match all three in your head. And here are some specific tips that I use to memorize the characters. So in my notebook, I write the same characters 6 to 7 times and put pinyin and meaning all together. So this becomes one group, and there's another group of a different character with different pinyin and meaning. And the groups go on in the next pages. This way, the characters stick in your head faster and longer because your eyes are not seeing just one character, but they are inputting repetitive information in bulk, if that makes sense. But you know what I mean, right? Or if you feel too lazy to write down that many times, you can also get a small notepad or a portable card note like this and write one huge character per page. But make sure to include pinyin and meaning too. And this way you can just easily flip through pages, reviewing all the Chinese characters you have learned when you are bored in a public transit or alone waiting for someone. Third, let not only your eyes but also your mouth and hands become familiar with characters. In other words, use your senses to memorize it. Tip number 1 was mostly using your sight, and that's one way of using your sense. But other ways include using your voice, your mouth, and your handwriting. So the most ideal way to use your senses as much as you can is to read out loud pinyin while you are writing the characters simultaneously. This way you use all your voice, hearing because you hear what you're saying, and your hands. And the more you practice writing Chinese characters by yourself, the more you get used to the stroke orders and you'll get the hang of some sort of pattern in strokes. And that will help you learn more advanced and complicated Chinese characters a lot easily later on. You will also get to feel with your hands the subtle and tricky differences between characters that look very similar. The best tool to practice with is with Chinese characters writing book. But you don't necessarily have to buy it, although there are many in the bookstore. But you can actually make your own writing book, like this. You can copy, paste some Chinese characters and print it out to practice on it. Or you can also get a random piece of empty paper and write down the characters that you learned from the book or from the internet. So all in all, it's all about training your brain through sight, mouth, and hands to get to a level where when you see the Chinese characters, you just instantly know what it means. It's like in your own native language, when you see a word, such as like happiness or peace, once you see it, you just instantly know how to pronounce it, how to write it, and what it means. And that should be the goal when it comes to learning Chinese characters or any other foreign languages for that matter. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight or in a short period of time. That's why it's called a goal. But the tips I shared will spare you from additional frustration. So trust me and try it. So I hope this helped, and go check out my How I Learned Chinese in 6 Months video if you need more tips on learning Mandarin. And please give this video a big thumbs up if you liked it, and I will see you on my next video. Bye bye!